our right is the entrance to an underground parking lot all over the core part of Berlin here. We are short of parking spaces for the cars, and we are here now on this big boulevard street unter den Linden, under the linden trees, and you don't see the linden trees yet. Later. We are crossing over the Spree River, and we are seeing bits and pieces of ice floating around. On our right-hand side is the Berlin Dome, built 1894 to 1905 by Julius Rushdorf in the style of Italian Renaissance, with a little over 1,600 seats. There were lots of other churches in the same spot before, but this was first used by a great elector of Brandenburg in the 16th century, when he stepped over to the Lutheran faith. So this dome here, which looks so Catholic and so Vatican style, is a Lutheran church. The house, the dome houses coffins of members of the Hohenzollern dynasty, the Prussian kings and queens from 1536 to 1916. They're all in an underneath vault, and you can access that by paying a little entrance fee and look at the vault yourself and the coffins. On your left-hand side is the Humboldt box, which is this accessible box for just getting a survey and an overview of how Berlin's linden, again, with no linden trees inside so far. And on our right, there is the German Historic Museum in a pinkish color here, with a permanent exhibit on German history. On the left-hand side, with the 4 Corinthian columns, this is a former Prussian palais, which is now the seat of the Bertelsmann Foundation. A lot of top-notch addresses can be found here. On the right-hand side, with 6 columns coming up, and the flags, is a memorial for all the victims of aggression and world wars. It commemorates World War II, World War I, and it has a sculpture in there, the Weeping Mother, and was actually erected by the East German government in the 50s. Another site under construction is on the left-hand side. It's all fenced in and sealed. This is the German Opera, which has also been quite a scandal. The original building is from 1750, and what happened here is that it was long argued that they should restore this opera. It was built on swampy ground, as all of Berlin is built on marshy ground, and it sinks. And so they were trying their best to restore the opera. Costs have gone rampant. They are no longer also within the schedule, and we are hoping to reopen in about 2 or 3 years. Millions and millions of more euros going into this construction, out into the open plaza, and that's where the Nazis had the bonfire in 1938. Denouncing all the books by mostly Jewish authors and creating this list of forbidden books during the Third Reich. So the main book burning event took place here on that, what is now called Plaza of the Book Burning, and there is a little memorial to it in the ground underneath. There's a glass plate, and you look into it actually on the street, and you look into a book magazine, and what you can see is shelves, empty shelves, which of course makes you wonder where are all these books that ought to be on these shelves and which are no longer there. Pretty powerful thing. So right and left here, when we go down, is a couple of what used to be former Prussian palais. A lot of the top-notch millionaires of the 19th century built those places, lived here. It used to be residential. And now what you can also see in the middle stripe are some measly linden trees. And I say measly because there used to be about 2,000 linden trees in the 16th century. And then the city passed the Linden Statute, which is a law, and it downsized the number of linden trees to a measly couple of hundreds, and then all of these massive linden trees got chopped down in 1945, the final month of World War II, when Hitler turned all of this into a runway, and his plan was to escape on a plane in last minute from Berlin in April, May 1945. This, of course, as we know, evaporated into hot air, so it never happened, but the linden trees were gone. He had covered all of this with camouflage, so they couldn't detect from above that this was now serving as a runway. And the East German government replanted all the trees that you can now see here, right and left, the linden trees, in 1945. So they are very young, very measly, very small, but it's all linden trees. Here in Berlin, but this is just his office space. So we're approaching Brandenburg Gate in front of us. And of course, Brandenburg Gate, you walked around, I think, the other night and had a view by yourself with the Adlon Hotel to its left hand. And most students always remember that this is the place where Michael Jackson stayed, and then he showed up at the balcony and shook his baby. So a lot more other stuff, but this seems to be in the heads of most young folks nowadays. And the British flag hangs out of the British Embassy of Wilhelmstrasse, which is still sealed off. For security reasons, we have seen a number of attacks in the last 10-15 years. Wilhelmstrasse has been sealed off ever since then. And we are doing a circle here to take you to the Gendarmenmarkt Plaza, which was voted by the people of Berlin for the most beautiful restored plaza of all of Berlin after the fall of the wall. And money on buildings and churches. Now when you look to your right, then you see circle it. So you have a pretty good view of the two domes, which are identical. And between the two domes, you find the Berlin Concert Hall that has just been remodeled by now deceased department store king Otto Beisheim. He spent millions and millions on that building in the middle between the two churches to restore that. So Berlin hosts the Berlin Open Air Festival concert in the months of June and July. Then they turn this entire plaza into an open air stage with about 2,000 seats, uncovered, so it's very risky. Yes, you can have thunderstorms, you can have rain, and there is no reimbursement if your tickets fall on a date that happen to be thunderstorm dates, so to speak, when you listen here for a concert. But in wintertime, of course, you go inside the building to listen to concerts or see other events. Very nicely remodeled. Then you have the two functioning churches right and left. One church has a restaurant in the basement, an Italian restaurant, which is also nice to go to. It's not very posh, it's actually very affordable. Around Gendarmenmarkt Plaza is now the site of lots of upscale hotels. We have the Hilton Hotel here, which is a 5-star hotel in the city of Berlin, and also the building used to be a hotel already in GDR times. And so a lot of this also has been funded by European money, because as you can imagine, Berlin needed a lot of money to be restored to its old grandeur, and as a matter of fact, it's still not finished. And there was a time, I would say the first 5 years maybe, where all of this, the streets that we're using now, was just a constant construction site. The core part of former East Berlin, traffic-wise, has been sheer horror for the first 10 years after the fall of the wall. Literally 2nd Street was under construction, was rebuilt, was redone, uh, pulled open, pipes were put in. They worked on reconnecting subways. Now the subways is something that East Berlin never quite pursued. The East Berlin government put its money on expanding the tram system, so overground. The reason for that being that subway systems are very expensive to build, especially if you have to deal with the legacy of World War II, and you come across bombs of World War II every second meter that you dig into the deep. Facing the west, and Heiko is gonna stop here shortly for just a little break. Now, Esther, I have to ask, what do you think? Because I know you've been here. Would you like a little photo stop to just go out quickly for like 10 minutes? To have a nice pictures taken of the Holocaust Memorial in the snow and run around a little bit, or shall we pass this by and use the time for another stop? They went out? No. Okay. So then we'll just park here for a little while so that I can tell you a little more. Um, okay, I know that you've been here and that you've roamed around and you've seen the place. As you know, there is no public explanation anywhere outside, so sometimes when you're not very well informed, people come here and they say, what is this? Prime real estate in the middle of Berlin and no explanation, and it's all these blocks. What the hell is this all about? And it was nothing that the Jewish community ever wanted, but it was a pet project by Chancellor Kohl, our previous chancellor before Angela Merkel came to power. And he felt that was the thing to do upon reunification, really, because he felt that was also something where Germany could publicly show that we as a reunified country take up the responsibility for the Holocaust that happened in the wake of World War II. And the reason why he did that was because the GDR, when you look at old GDR school books, never really talked about the Holocaust. It talked about the Third Reich, yes, and it talked about communist victims because they fit into East German ideology, but they never talked about the Holocaust. So that was something that East Germans did not grow up with as a legacy. So the Holocaust was never an integral part of their German legacy when they went to school. And even the East German government had always said, you know, when it comes to reparations or reimbursement for forced labor or any of that sort, the East German government for 40 years kept saying all the ex-Nazis live in what is now West Germany. So if you want to talk about this, you need to talk to the West German government. We are a country of victims ourselves because we are part of the communist legacy of Berlin's or German history. And so that was officially kind of the stand that the government took. And Kohl felt that the memorial could improve some of these relations and also give some of the responsibility to the East Germans. Now, Brandenburg Gate has been sealed for public transportation and for traffic, so to speak, because it, of course, was built in the 18th century and it wasn't made to fit any kind of traffic. It's bad enough that now the new subway line is supposed